Hey guys, my name is Wildkard and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for subscribing to my channel and following my contents. I really do appreciate it. I have one paid subscriber in my channel. So, Coops, thank you for subscribing and paying for my instant coffee. I really do appreciate that. If you do watch my channel and wanted to buy me some instant coffee, because I can't actually afford barista coffee and it's also in lockdown. I don't want to risk my life getting a coffee. So, yeah, feel free to click the join button down below. Otherwise, subscribe, post your comments. I really do appreciate all your engagement on the channel. Now, let's have a talk about the lineup. Last week was a historical week where we saw the prodigy son, the messiah of Australian rugby returns and carried Australia to a massive upset over the world champion Springboks. Yeah, that was a game that the Wallabies probably were outplayed in most aspects of the game, and the Springboks really were let down by Handré Pollard's kicking. So the number 10's position was the big part where Springboks were lost. Handré Pollard was on like 60% kicking average, whilst Quade Cooper was 100%. And if Handré had landed one extra kick, the Springboks would have won or maybe even a draw. So yeah, this was pretty outplayed. And also the discipline was also an issue for the Springboks. If they hadn't given away too many penalties in kickable range, also would have been a big win for the Springboks. Speaking of Quade Cooper, whilst we're at it, before I move on to other points that I want to talk about, I talked about this in my news review every last Tuesday. So some of you guys already heard this. But I'm telling the story again, okay? It's Quade, okay? You guys probably don't know. A lot of you guys, especially if you're South African or if you're New Zealander, you just know him as like, oh, the bad guy who touched Sir Richie, this public enemy number one, the traitor Kiwi who left New Zealand for Australia. But for Australians, especially for like, you know, his generation, which I am, he's a really, really big deal for Australian. In 2006, he was in high school. Okay, just give you an idea how big of a deal Quade Cooper was. He was in high school. He went to all boys school called Angleton Church Grammar School in 2006. And in 2006, this was before like social media. You know, when people didn't even really have Facebook back then. And this was before you had internet on your phone. And YouTube wasn't really a thing. Doing what I'm doing is just like non-existent. And it's just a stupid idea, it still is in current times. And Quade Cooper, I kid you not, before he even had a professional contract, was famous across all the schools that play rugby in Brisbane. Like, I knew Quade Cooper in school before I even knew what Quade Cooper looked like, because of how he was known by everyone as being an actual prodigy in school. And the reason he got so famous in high school, right? I was in one of the rival schools that went to Quade. Like, it was like unheard of to know somebody from another school being famous for playing rugby. Like, we hated the other schools. Like, no one cares if you're good at rugby or any sport. We just play you and we try to smash you anyway. Who cares if you're good at it? But no one was like actually famous enough for everybody to know and to care about, like, actually putting a number on someone. Like, the hatred for this guy in school was like tremendous, right? And the reason being, there was a rumor. This was, obviously before Facebook and everything was even a thing. So the only way for you to get famous back then was a rumor. And this is the rumor that made Quade famous. The rumor was he was playing rugby. And one of the Reds coaches or whatever was like around to pick up the kids or something. He was a parent or something, whatever. But anyway, one of the Reds rugby guy was watching. And this guy was so impressed by Quade's performance, and they offered him a contract right there after the game. And Quade was apparently too young to even accept the contract. And that was the rumor that went around all the rival schools. And everybody knew Quade. And everybody had a target on him. And we were talking about taking him out before the game. Like, everybody wanted to take him out. It was just like so full on. And when Quade came to play in our school, there was like by far the biggest crowd as well. It's not just like yeah, like everybody knew. Even the parents wanted to see him. Like it was by far the biggest crowd against them, despite the fact that they were not the biggest rival school to us. We had another school that was even bigger of a rival to us. When we played Quade, everybody showed up, and it's sort of like just like unheard of back then, especially for a time where, you know, like he wasn't even a professional athlete. And sure enough, when he finished school, straight into the Reds. The rumor was, you know, obviously legitimate, and then straight into the Wallabies. I don't know how legitimate, but the rumor was, you know, kind of like confirmed. And then straight into the Wallabies 2 years later. And in 2011, when he won Super Rugby, we all thought the Messiah is gonna take us to the peaks of World Rugby champion. Take on the Bledisloe Cup, the Webb Willis Cup. Okay, we thought he was gonna do it, but then. Yeah, we all know what happened. It's not too late. He's still young. He can still fulfill the prophecy for Australia to bring back the Webb Ellis Cup. And yeah, so that is a bit of a story about Quade. And yeah, famous in high school. Legitimate high school prodigy. Not one of these phony ones they put out at allblacks.com. Look at this guy, Rico Ioane played in high school. High school prodigy. Yeah, you post a video of him after he's already made the All Blacks famous. Yeah, try being famous before you even play a professional team. That's high school prodigy for you. So yeah, anyway, the number 10 position, big matchup for the once again. Anyway, let's have a look at, actually, before we get on the full lineup, let's have a look at some of the changes in the team. The news just leading to this game just quickly. Almost forgot. So, Daniel Tupou and Nico obviously starting. So the few changes coming in were as that Alan Toa is out for maternity leave or whatever you call it. So they have a child coming, so he's out, and in comes Greg. What is his name? I don't get his name wrong. Tom Robertson. So Tom Robertson plays for Western Force, and he plays loose head. So he's coming in at tight head position, or maybe they're gonna move Angus Bell tight head. Not too sure, but coming in a tight head position against the Springboks, I am a little bit worried about this one. But anyway, that's the best option we have right now. Another big thing was Hooper getting his 60th 60th captaincy for the Wallabies, beating George Gregan. I actually thought Stephen Moore would be the second highest over George, but George Gregan apparently is second highest. So now Hooper has overtaken the legendary George Gregan, the last man to lift the Bledisloe Cup, the last captain to lift the Bledisloe Cup, George Gregan. And yeah, so pretty impressive there. And also just some news as well. James O'Connor is apparently back. Rabbit, he's apparently back from injury, and Rabbit played against Quade in high school. Okay, so and Rabbit was not nearly as famous as James O'Connor. As Quade Cooper in high school, by the way, just so you know. But he was a year younger, so he may have been a bigger name in the next year. But in 2006, he was in year 11, and he wasn't nearly as well known as Quade. But anyway, apparently James O'Connor is ready to play, but they actually, wow, we actually have too many talent. Oh my god, woo! Apparently there was not really a position for him, so they're just gonna have to put him on give him a bit of a. Apparently he's ready to play, but they have to just give him a bit more time on the sideline. So yeah, this is quite a big. Darcy Swain also come back from a bit of an injury for the Wallabies, and for the Springboks. And also who was it? Paisami apparently is back. Could be potentially ready to play, but they really have struggling to fit him over Samu Kurevi. I personally do think Samu Kurevi is a little bit better than Paisami in terms of ball security. Paisami sometimes tends to get a bit aggressive and loses the ball. So so again, too many talent for the Wallabies for the first time ever. And for the Springboks, so the coaches has been criticized a lot. Jaco Johan for just not really capitalizing opportunity to score tries in the first half and taking points. Despite the fact that they had, obviously overwhelming dominance in the lineouts, especially when it comes to rolling more. So they were criticized for that, and they were also criticized for, there was a lot of talk about the number 10 position or the kicker. So should they get a replacement kicker and replace one of the forwards instead of running the bomb squad? Maybe have one of the extra kicker on the bench come off if Handré Pollard wasn't doing so well. They also talked about that. But Jaco Johan is sticking to his lineup. He's putting trust in Handré to get a better result. So Handré Pollard is not like bad kicker. He's on and off. So he's being on and off throughout the Lions tour. He's been on and off a bit against Argentina. So he was perfect against Argentina actually, but he was on and off against the Lions tour. So definitely has the ability to be consistent and kick 100%. So Jaco Johan's giving him another chance to prove himself at number 10. And and I think one of the main thing is Lou Diega from Springboks also got a head knock, so he was out. Marvin Ori comes in for him at number 5 spot. And yeah, so and also the big return for Trevor Nyake for the Springboks at the loose head forward position. Trevor Nyake is famous for winning the Lions tour for the Springboks with a scrum penalty in the dying second of the game. Well, he didn't win it, but he sealed the deal, basically. He shut the game off. So, yeah, so Nyake is very devastating scrummager. And, we shall see how Wallabies cope with him. It's a little bit scary for me. So anyway, let's have a look at I think that's everything I need to cover for the Springboks. I didn't miss anything else, did I? Just quick look through. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the lineup. Let's go from the start. So Nyake comes off an injury. Very devastating scrummager. Big day for Tupou. Moved up from number 3 because Alatua gets moved. Goes home to look after his newborn child. Jem Slipper at loose head position, moved up from bench as well. Jem Slipper and Tupou were struggling against Vincent Koch and Oxnich. So this will be a bit of a test for both of them to see how they go. Franz Malherbe had a bit of a trouble against what's his name? Angus Bell. And so we shall see how he matches up against Jem Slipper. Hopefully, Nyake doesn't give too much trouble to Tupou, but Tupou did put himself together to win that last penalty for the Australian team in the dying minutes against Springboks. So yeah, we shall see how this goes. Tupou has been off a little bit in the recent rounds. He's not as dominant, obviously, against much more, tougher competition. But I do think that Tupou has the talent to really take the next step up. And, he has the technique and the strength. So he just needs to, just be more clinical in that scrummaging by taking away that little bit of extra space in the engagement and just set up your body position that a little bit tighter. I guess will really tighten up that technique a little bit. He has the talent to win every scrum against these guys. So big test for Tupou against Trevor Nyake, the man that shut out the dreams of the Northerners in the Lions tour. Isabeth and Marvin Ori is a new lock combo. Marvin Ori comes in for Lou Diego, who had a bit of headlock. Ori has been decent for the Springboks. He's been coming off the bench as a backup. Not to the level as Diego, so I don't expect too much. Not to the same level as Diego, but I don't see too much issue with him coming in. Still a pretty solid performer. Plays for the Sharks. Isaac Rodda stays at the number 4 position with Matt Phillip. So Flower Faianga Art stays the only one stays at the hooker position. He actually did it pretty well in the game for the Wallabies last week. And then on the loose forward position, unchanged for both teams. Sia Khaleesi at open side, Franco Mercer at a blind side for the Springboks, Lockie Swinton at blind side for the Wallabies, and Michael Hooper, the best open side flanker in the world by far. His work rate is through the roof, being able to slip through tackles, create space with his teammates, support running, absolutely amazing. My hat's off to you, Michael. I criticized you for being poor last year. You really stepped up, and hats off to you, mate. You really deserved a round of applause. And being the most capped Australian captain, I couldn't be proud to say that you are the man to be the most capped player for the Wallabies, because you truly are the best in the world. Number 7, hands down. Dwayne Vermeulen, Thor, comes in, stays at number 8 for the Springboks, and he has been really good at the breakdown as well. Same with, he's almost as good as Michael Hooper at the breakdown in terms of the work rate. But yeah, Thor comes in, but he doesn't play the full game. He only gets half a game to perform. He gets subbed off in the second half. Rob Valentini stays at number 8 position for the Wallabies. Backs has been one change for the Wallabies team. Nick White comes off the bench. So Nick White, in my opinion, I thought Nick White was better coming off the bench. To be honest, I'm not sure why they did this change. They swapped him out for Mike McDermott. Nick White came on the bench last week, was brilliant. Like, Nick White is one of those players who are like really creative, and he does a lot of brilliant stuff coming off the bench. So he came off the bench and kicked this beautiful 50-22 where Australia, in case you don't know, 50-22 is if you kick the ball out from inside your own half and he goes out inside the opposition 22, and provided that he rolled on the ground, you get the line out throw. So it's like the 40-22 from league. But yeah, Nick White came on the field, spotted a gap, made that kick. I do think Nick White's better off the bench because the fact that he is creative, and if his creativity really shines with 20 minutes in the game or 20 or 30 minutes left in the game, because he's only got like small amount of time to be really creative, to do all his creative stuff, to put every trick out of his bag, right? So he really like makes his like plays impactful. But in the first half, when people are off, everybody's fresh, and especially with giving 40, maybe 50 minutes to perform, his creativity runs out. And when Nick White, he tends to do this thing where when he has nothing left to do, he just does things that are kind of like 50-50. That's my opinion, okay? And he tends to be, sometimes these are things that's just like questionable and maybe a little bit poor because of the fact that he has too much time and he ran out of stuff to be creative about. That's my opinion. So I think Nick White's better off the bench, but we shall see if he does anything particularly like crazy and poor, on Saturday. Faf de Couleur stays at number 9. Really kicking game once again last week, right off the bat. Makazulu Pimpi on number 11 against Moroccan Combedi, one of the really impactful hard running game last week. Damien Denlande at number 12. And Samuel Karevi really matched up Denlande last week. And Samuel Karevi really was like the biggest line breaks out of all the players for the Wallabies. Biggest gangs all around the park for the Wallabies. Samuel Karevi. Damien Denlande used to do that. Does that a lot for the Springboks, but really didn't get an opportunity to do that a lot last week. He wasn't wasn't really getting the opportunity and was outdone by Samuel Karevi last week. I have to say, Lukamu Army out the center position against Len Ikitau. Again, not really should have a big advantage for the Springboks, but really was neutralized a lot last week. Subu Nkosi at number 14. Again, he's in for Cheslin Kobe, who should be back for the All Blacks game. I do think that he's not nearly as dangerous as Cheslin Kobe. There were a few kicks from Quaid that I thought was really poor, where he kicked straight down the field and straight to Nkosi. And if I was Cheslin, would have been a try. I have no doubt. So it was just like wide open space for Nkosi to work with, but he wasn't really able to capitalize. So yeah, would have been very dangerous if it was Cheslin. So Cooper needs to improve on those kicks quite a bit. Vili LaRue at number 15, once again for the Springboks, up against Tom Banks. Andrew Callaway, number 14, in blindside winger position. Once again, the best performing winger for the Wallabies. Many weeks in a row now. I'm very impressed by this guy. Ever since he debuted for the Wallabies, he seems to have solidified himself as the best winger he's the best winger for the Wallabies. Not gonna lie. Malcolm Marx stays the number 16 spot after scoring 2 tries off the ball. So yeah, this is the critical part of the Springbok strategy. Is to be able to come off the bench and really dominate their set piece, dominate the 4-pack. And Malcolm Marx was the critical key last week, scoring 2 tries off the ball. Feleke Kaitu'u got his debut last week. To be honest, he got lucky. Had a bit of big struggle in the scrums, big trouble in lineouts. Big trouble in defense against them all, but luckily Australia won, so he had a fairy tale start. But this week he really needs to step up to really be able to neutralize that Springboks front rows. Stephen Kitsoff gets moved to the bench for number 1 spot, and up against Tom Robertson, who's also a loose prop. So I'm not sure how this is gonna go. To be honest, I'm a little bit iffy. Tom Robertson. So the Western Force scrummaging has been pretty decent. But it was nothing like it was not dominant anyway. It was like Western Force scrum was not great, but they managed the ball really well, so they don't really give away penalties. So they managed to hold to their own, basically. So Tom Robertson coming off the bench, he really wished that that really needs to tighten up his technique, especially that tie forward, especially out of position against Kitsoff. This is going to be a really tough game, and if the Wallabies fall apart at this, yeah, if this is an area that he doesn't hold up, the Wallabies could have a really, really difficult day in the second half, to be honest. Angus Bell, at least, is at loose forward position to give the Wallabies a bit of a stabilization in the scrummaging. Angus Bell is by far the best loose forward for the Wallabies, and he earned 2 penalties for the Wallabies in the first half last week. So up against Vincent Koch to see how that will fare in the second half. Yeah, so this is a very, very critical matchup for the game. This could be where the game is won or lost this weekend. And then the Springboks once again opted for the bomb squad with 3 loose forwards coming off the bench. Marco van Staden, Huaga Smith, and Jasper Visa coming in probably at number 8. Yeah, so again, they just wanted to overrun you on the breakdown. They tried that last week and they succeeded. But these guys gave away a bit more penalties than Jaco Johan would prefer them to be given away. So yeah, some of these guys, very impactful. Again, Huaga Smith, one of the highest work rate players on the field. Jasper Visa, really, really good on the field as well. And he tends to chase those high ball as well. So just a lot of pressure coming off the bench, both up front and in the back line with backline as well from the forward position. Wallabies, Darcy Swain comes back at number 19, something that we probably really want for the lineouts, especially if it's struggling. P. Samu, very impactful player once again for the Wallabies last week coming off the bench. Tate McDermott gets dropped from 9. We shall see how he goes coming off the bench. For Nick White at number 22, Herschel Yanshi stays his number 22 position for the Faf de Klerk. Damien Willemse comes in number 23. I hope to God he doesn't go on for 100 Pollard again this week. Hopefully Jaco Johan learned his mistake from last week. I think Damien Willemse would go at number 15 for Vili LaRue this time. Or even a winger for Asabu Nkosi. Yeah, Nkosi. I'm never saying his name right. Yeah, Subu Nkosi. So I hope to God he doesn't coming at 10 once again. So everything is hinging on 100 Pollard's kicking. Lots of pressure. We'll see how he handles a World Cup winner. He should be okay handling pressure. Rhys Hodge comes in at number 22. And Jordan Patea coming in at number 23. Rhys Hodge might be coming on for 15 for Tom Banks, and Jordan Patea will most likely come in for one of the wingers, maybe outside center with Len Ikitau. We shall see how that goes. A couple of guys are out. Ox Inche is out. Lou Diego is out with a concussion. Alana Toa is out with a baby, and Robert Leota is out. Stacey Swain just comes in for his spot. Anyway, guys, let me know your prediction for this game. I am too scared to predict another win for the Wallabies. But I will say the Messiah can take us to the promise. This will be very big if the Wallabies can squeeze out another win this week. Both teams have a lot to improve on, but I think the Springboks might just do it this time. I think the Springboks might just do it. I'm not too sure about Tom Robinson. I think there's going to be a couple of scrum penalties that cost, will be a close game, and there'll be a few penalties that cost us in the scrummaging. Maybe even in the lineouts. And the Springboks will just squeeze points out of you by brute force in the second half and pulls ahead. I think Springboks might... I'm too scared to say the Springboks are going to win by 6, but Wallabies win by 1. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your predictions. Like, comment, and subscribe. Feel free to join the club. Buy me some Insta coffee. And I'll see you guys later on for the All Blacks review. Cheers.